You're watching Leafs Morning Take with host Nick Alberga and former NHLer Jay Rosehill. The show starts now.
Presented by Bet365, it's time for the Monday edition of Leafs Morning Take. Nick Alberga and guest co-host Carter Hutton with you. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365. Use code NATION, all in uppercase, NATION. Today, what's going on, Huts? How are you, buddy?
I'm doing well, my man. We're snowing. We getting some snow. Our first snowfall in Thunder Bay. My face is a little rosy here, buddy. I got to adjust to this winter climate here in Thunder Bay, my man.
Man, we've had some weird weather. I know Rosie's been talking about it. He's up in Alberta, so they got snow, I think, in July. But here in Toronto, it's been a mixed bag. A lot of rain lately. It's bizarre.
Yeah, miserable. I think it's that time of year. This is probably weird for you. You got Rosie and me, a couple dads here. We come on and we just talk about the weather. That's what our life is. We watch hockey, talk about the weather. That is, you got something to look forward to. You ever start a family?
Buddy, even at 35, I talk about the weather. Like, it's just the one consistent where you know you're going to get a reaction one way or not. If it's hot, it's hot. It's damn hot. I'm loving this. If it's cold, this sucks. You know you're getting a reaction. I'm telling you.
It is common ground, but it's good. Last night was nice. I think just one game on the docket, you could really just sink your teeth into it. I'm not worried about anything else. What a nice night for the NHL, for us especially.
Utah Hockey Club. I was actually in attendance in a seat for that game. So we're going to break down the Leafs-Utah game. But I got to ask you off the top, because you're with me last week when Jim Montgomery was canned by the Boston Bruins. The dude is unemployed for like 5 days. He's gone back to St. Louis, their new head coach. I got to credit Doug Armstrong. It's a business at the end of the day. I feel for Drew Bannister, who was the full-time head coach for like 22 games, had the interim tag last season. But Jim Montgomery lands in St. Louis. How about that?
Yeah, it's not surprising that he was hired so quickly, right? It was 5 days. I saw a stat there. It was last time Claude Julien was fired was 6, Bruce Cassidy was 7, and he was 5. So it just shows you how much he was in demand. And we called this, right? We said he was going to get hired immediately. It is the shits for Bannister, right? Because he was, doing a job with a team that necessarily isn't built to win by any means right now, the way that they are structured. And he's in, he's out, but you get a chance to hire a coach like Montgomery, you get him in a 5-year deal for him. So he is getting paid, and that is one of the perks about being a coach, right? You're still getting that Bruins money, and then he's already on to his next contract.
Can't forget either, the Blues are the kings of the coaching change, right? If you even date back 5 years ago, in perfect correlation to this Maple Leafs team, Craig Berube comes in mid-season. They were like the worst team in hockey, end up winning the Stanley Cup. They tried it again last year, but man, this is becoming a reoccurring theme. But something tells me Montgomery's going to be there for a couple of years at least.
Yeah, I think so. For just listening to Doug Armstrong talk about him, just where he's at, how he can, coach a winning team, a team that's ready to win. He can coach a team that's in a rebuild. He has familiarity with St. Louis. So I feel like he is excited, obviously, to be there. And for me, playing in St. Louis, spending 3 years there, I think Monty, knowing the city, family wise, it's an easy place to like transition to, right? You're not moving to Toronto or a major city where it's like can be a bit overwhelming and a big lifestyle change. St. Louis is pretty about as easy living as it gets in the NHL.
And you got to feel for Drew Bannister, though. Like, that was his first shot to be an NHL head coach. Does well last year, gets the interim tag taken off. I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world. He's getting paid not to coach there, and he's getting a pretty nice fat check for sure. But that's got to sting because, Robert Thomas missed half of those games this year. Like, he didn't really get a fair shake. But again, it's a stern reminder, I like to say, of it being a business. And I understand what Armstrong was doing. There's a guy like Jim Montgomery out there. You can't not get him, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Nikki, I said the exact same thing last night because Drew Bannister is married to a girl from Thunder Bay, and Drew was here this summer, and he spoke to the Young Queens organization, which is our rep team across the board. My wife helps out at, and she was, said he was so well spoken. So I was explaining to her last night how he got fired. I told her about the Bruins coach, and she doesn't follow it obviously like I do. And I just said, it's such a cutthroat business. That's exactly what I said. I said, this is a perfect example of someone comes available that has a better resume and you're out of a job just like that, right? And I don't think he has done bad by any means. What I hope for him is he's built up enough rapport now where he can go and get a chance to, at least be an assistant again, right? I think it's going to be tricky for him to try to get a head coaching job, especially when we know that by the time year end comes, there's going to be guys with long resumes that are fired looking for jobs as well. So it is a dogfight. There's only so many seats at the table. And for coaches, you're hired to get fired. We see it all the time.
This is getting out of hand, though. The amount of coaching changes in the last year and a half alone, where it's like people are looking for that fresh mint boost or bump from a coaching change. And it's like, have we forgotten the root of this whole thing? And the other thing I would bring up too, like assistants never, compared to other sports, specifically the NFL, like I don't think enough assistants are given praise. You know what I mean? Like in the NFL, it happens a lot where a guy will get promoted to a head coaching position. How often does it happen in the NHL? That's what I loved about Bannister too, man.
Yeah, not very often, right? You see it all the time, the NFL offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators, guys that have success move into those roles, right? Where the assistants, we're so stuck in our ways of like wanting to make sure that we just regurgitate these coaches over and over again. And they obviously have a shelf life, right? But at the same time, like hire from what, you look at what Edmonton did going off the board and it's worked out well. Well, obviously they're struggling a bit this year, but going to the Cup final last year, it's nice to see because I also think that players have changed too. You need someone that is more like finger on the pulse of what younger players are like. And it's hard when you're just hiring these older coaches all the time.
So we got to talk about this Utah-Toronto game, but I'm not sure if you caught this social media act before the game. I guess Utah, I don't know if they were complaining, but they put out a video that they were walking to the game because of the Toronto traffic. And I must mention as well, shout out to our guy, Zach Phillips, of course, does the Leafs Nation After Dark. Came out to my beer league doubleheader on Sunday, had quite the rip. I think scored the GWG in one of the games. He was awesome, but he also dealt with Toronto traffic. It took him an hour and 45 minutes from Toronto to just west of Toronto and Oakville, which is normally like a 30-minute drive. So I understand what Utah is dealing with it, but as us as Torontonians, we deal with this on a daily basis, dude.
Yeah, it's life in the trenches, right? I stayed at that Delta Hotel for a couple months when I was on the Leafs, and it was sometimes walking to Scotiabank a block or two up the road was a pain in the butt. But, I think isn't Swift there right now too? T Swift, concerts flying. I'm seeing
He
a
just
ton of
departed.
stuff on social media. That's it. Hey, finally, hopefully get back to normal. I'm there next week, so we are coming in to watch the Hawks play. I'm taking my little guy, so we are geared up for the traffic. But that's one of the things that comes with being in a big city, right? There's a ton of perks, but at times you got to deal with it. And making a social media video doesn't stop it.
Buddy, there's no animal like Toronto traffic. I'll just say that. And yeah, T Swift got out of here on Saturday, so it wasn't even Taylor Swift traffic. This is Sunday night traffic. Just think about it.
Yeah, it comes at any time, right? I feel like when I lived in Chicago it was like that. It'd be like a random time and you just hit random traffic. But big cities, man, it comes with the territory.
By the way, for those wondering, yes, the Nylander brothers who debuted together, they both took the TTC. Not a surprise there, Huts.
Yeah, the double whammy, eh? I wonder if they're getting selfies and people hitting on them, especially at this point.
What are the chances we get that commercial in the next month? The Nylander brothers riding the Red Rocket.
Yeah. Get his brother some extra dough while he's up here. I know he took league minimum there. He's got to get some extra dough. So, but yeah, honestly, it's kind of cool to see that though. I feel like that Oshie did that forever in Washington, and it's one of the perks about being a big city where you get to be close to players and stuff like that. And I know Stolarz walks the rink as well, and he keeps playing like this. It's going to be hard for him to walk to the rink without a little bit of people bugging him all the time as well.
I love it. Many thanks to producer Vic, who returned today after his month-long bachelor party down south. The Santa Claus parade, that's why we saw so much traffic in Toronto yesterday. There's your answer, Huts.
There it is. Santa Claus is coming to town, baby. It's that time of year. This is a great time of year, too. I know you're not a parent, but you use this against your kids everywhere. Santa's watching. Hey, don't do that. Don't do that. So this is a good time, but not for Utah walking on the rink.
Does it actually work for your kids where it's like in this buffer zone of, we'll say, a month and a half where you're like, you always threaten that Santa's going to give you cold? Does it work at least for a month and a half where they're like chill kids?
Yeah, at times. You can't overuse it though. You got to be strategic with it. But yeah, it definitely works. There's times where, man, you just need something. You need them to listen because they get so set in their ways. They're little goofballs, but it's a lot of fun and it's a challenge. But yeah, at times you definitely use it to your advantage, lying to them.
A lot of energy. I love that. You heard that here first on Leafs Morning Take. Leafs Nation, we know you've got thoughts, takes, and opinions, and now's your chance to share them. Please hit that link in the show description or in the YouTube chat. I'm about to post that in mere seconds, by the way. Fill out the quick survey. Not only will you help us build the content you actually want to see, but you're also throwing your hat in the ring to win a $250 Fanatics gift card. I know what I would buy. I'd buy a Carter Hutton vintage Maple Leafs uniform, one that was never actually worn, right, Huts?
Never actually worn. No, I never put one on. I put on a Marlies jersey, but I have all the merch though from the Leafs. Like I actually in my garage, I have my little thing from the playoffs, like Carter Hutton number 40. I had the Leafs playoff hoodies, all this stuff. I gave them to my buddies. My brother-in-law always wears the hoodie, the number 40 playoff Leafs. So I was there, you know what I mean? I was there, but I didn't get a chance to don the jersey.
Dude, forever and always, I'll introduce you as former Toronto Maple Leaf Carter Hutton. Don't forget as well, we've got multiple gift cards to give away with Fanatics. So it's a quick minute of your time that could score you something super sweet. Don't wait. This chance ends later on this week on November 29th. By the way, we're a week away from the big day. Huts. Be sure to tune in every weekday starting Monday, December 2nd at 3 p.m. Eastern on the Daily Faceoff YouTube channel. The Sheet with Jeff Marek is set for liftoff. Jeff will be diving into the biggest storylines shaping hockey today, news, rumors, emerging trends, and insights from every corner of the rink. Once again, that will be available to everybody every weekday starting Monday, December 2nd, live at 3 p.m. Eastern on the Daily Faceoff YouTube channel. While you're at it, make sure to follow at The Sheet Hockey, on all your favorite social media platforms so you don't miss a second. Man, dude, that was such a monster signing. I am pumped, by the way, to have Jeff Marek on today's show as well.
Yeah, understandable. He is a heavy hitter. And, I was fortunate enough to be on his show a bunch last year. I got to know Jeff very well. We had a few off-air conversations and a little bit of guidance. And as I endeavor into this new media side of it, but he is a guy, he is a unicorn. He is a unique guy in the hockey world. He is an encyclopedia when it comes to information. And I think this is a huge pickup and it's going to be exciting. I'm looking forward to a show. I hopefully be a part of it a little more, being his goalie guy here, getting on once in a while with him to answer some questions and help out. But I look forward to learning from him and listening to him, Nick, because he comes up with some great stuff.
This is the biggest signing since Carter Hutton took his talents to Buffalo.
Yeah. I don't know about that. Let's not. Come on. Your nose is growing a little more there, pal, but that's all right. I got asked that the other day. I was playing beer league and they asked me if my favorite team is I was at a kid's birthday party. One of the dads goes, "Is your favorite team Buffalo?" And I was like, "No." He's like, "But you played there for 3 years." And all he said was, "Yeah, but that was for money." And they all started dying laughing. You got to do what you got to do.
Oh, dude, I would have made the exact same choice. And I do remember being so stunned when I'm like, Carter Hutton to Buffalo? Like, nobody was even thinking about that. And then we saw the contract. We're like, oh, that's why he's got a mansion in Thunder Bay now. I get it. And a winery in Nashville. I love it. So we got two special guests, not one, but two. Marek's coming up in about 35 or so, and a little bit of a reunion. Your former GM, David Poile, just newly inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame, is going to drop by in about 20 here.
Yes, that's exciting. Obviously, David Poile meant a lot to me. He kind of really gave me my first crack in the NHL, right? Like I spent some times with the Hawks. I spent 2 seasons there where I was up and down. I ended up playing my first game for the Hawks. And then during that 2013 Stanley Cup run, their goalie coach at the time, Mitch Korn, and the American League goalie coach, Benny Vanderklok, really loved me. And they went to David Poile and they said, they think that I am the guy to play with Pekka Rinne. I'm a guy that would take a cheap contract. I would be durable. I would improve. They really saw an upside in me. And David Poile was open to it. And, I'm sitting here now, I think very grateful for someone like David Poile taking a chance on a guy who had no real NHL experience.
Well said. The irony of that, you taking a cheap contract and then going to Buffalo for that type of paycheck. I love that.
Oh, I already left. I already went to St. Louis.
Oh, this is all. Hey, okay.
Hey, you got to do what you got to do, right? UC Saros. I blame UC Saros. We can talk about that with David. I blame UC Saros was coming, and I knew the writing was on the wall that he was a heck of a lot better than I was. So I had to get out of town.
It's actually so crazy when you look at the pipeline of net mining in that crease in Nashville in the last 15 years. It's Saros and Rinne. I mean, before that was Vokun?
Yeah, there hasn't been a lot of goalies. I forget. I remember someone said some stat, like I'm like 6th or 7th all time in wins for the Preds or some sort of numbers. And I barely played. Like I literally had 3 seasons of being Rene's backup. So it's funny just to see that there was no like real guys. Like they've had just goalies and luck getting guys. Like Rene was a 6th round pick, I believe. And he was unbelievable. Arguably could be a Hall of Famer at some point.
Yeah, I would argue with that as well, for sure. I think just the pipeline in general has been so marvelous in Nashville. They'll be in town, actually, by the way, next Wednesday. The Nashville Predators and Luke Shen will be in town. But make sure you get those super chats in at the Leafs Nation 401 on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button. Leafs Morning Take. Wherever you find your podcast, make sure to leave us a 5-star review. And don't forget to visit the LeafsNation.com. Prime Monday Night Hockey on Prime Video is here, the exclusive home for the NHL. On Monday nights in Canada, tonight, Canada's capital takes center stage as the Ottawa Senators host the Calgary Flames. You can watch Prime Monday Night Hockey on Prime Video at no added cost to your membership. Just check out the sports section when you're inside the app. If you currently don't have a Prime membership, you can sign up for a 30-day free trial. Additionally, students are able to sign up for a 6-month free trial at amazon.ca/Amazon Prime. Prime Monday Night Hockey, it's on Monday. It's on Prime. So let's dive into this 3-2 victory against Utah Hockey Club on Sunday. Pretty interesting game all around. I thought Utah was the better team in the first period. The Leafs were outstanding, man. And I mentioned that I was there in person in the second period, and I thought it was more Utah in the third. But bottom line, they got the job done here, right?
They did. They found a way to win. And again, that's a tricky team, right? That is a young hockey team that still like hasn't really found that identity, and they're streaky, right? And I thought Vejmelka played pretty well yesterday too, as well. He's been a guy that hasn't had a great start. And we talk about goalies being available, and he might be a guy that someone tries to chase down now that he's playing this game. So, for me, I think this is a great effort, right? This is one of those games where, again, you're kind of like looking for that little bit of jump again without Matthews. Where are they at? And I think they brought it again, right? You look at some big performances. Obviously, Marner was something to talk of, but I think the ebbs and flows of this game is moving in the right direction. And this is a team that, for me, Nick, I love the way that they're playing on the other side of the puck here, the way they're defending. And I think it just goes to show you, I think Craig Berube is getting through to this group.
Oh, he certainly is. And, specifically, obviously, you having the goalie background, I wanted to ask you about the goaltenders. You talked about Vejmelka there, but also Joseph Woll makes 23 saves. He's won now 4 consecutive starts. The one thing I really picked up on, and maybe it was because I was in the building, like particularly close to the ice, but the amount of high tip plays that Utah was trying to send to the net, would that be sort of a game plan thing, or is that just coincidence that it kept happening?
I think coincidence. I think that is a game plan, definitely, but I don't think it's like structured around Joseph Woll, right? It's probably saying that, the way they defend, they don't give up a lot in front of the net. So try to get pucks low to high, get to the net, create traffic. And what I thought was really great, even though they had the 2-tip goal, the first goal, there's not much you can do on, right? That is a bang, bang play, Logan Cooley with the deflection. Then the McBain one, he does a pretty good job through traffic of not over shifting. It's just a great tip, right? But I also thought during that game, he looked steady. He looked like he was seeing it well. He was feeling, he made a lot of big saves. And for me, I love the fact now, like this is too straight for Woll, right? So I still don't think we have a goalie. We have a great issue here, right? This is the one where we've been watching Boston for years with Allmark and Swayman being like, how jealous we are of that situation, where now we have 2 guys that can go. I think right now, if it's like start of the playoffs, we probably go in Stolarz just because he has a little bit more of a runway right now. But this is a really, really good problem to have, especially the fact where we're not worried about overplaying either guy because neither of them have the resume of 50 plus games for, multiple years.
It's healthy. And I think that the important thing to bring up too is like the fact that Woll got back-to-back starts. And I think it peels back the curtain to what the Maple Leafs are thinking. And that's, you got Florida on Wednesday. You want Stolarz obviously to play that game. It's a revenge look, but he's been the better of the two. And I wonder if you come back with Stolarz again on Hockey Night in Canada. But I think the big save that stood out for me was a 3-2 game in the third period, the toe save on Michael Carcone.
Yeah, that was a huge one. That was a big time save, especially on that play. And for me, that just shows his ability to compete as well, too, right? I talk about that a lot even with younger kids I've helped or whatever. Like, you can be so structured and so boring at times and let the game come to you, but you need to be an athlete. You need to be a bulldog and make saves. And that is one where he just breaks form and makes a giant save. And the timing of it, right? We talk a lot about that in hockey, especially when I played. It's not necessarily how many saves you make, right? You can look at a box score and you can be like, oh, he gave up 2 on 18 shots. Not that great of a stat line, but like the way the game goes, you can't control what comes at you. And that was one of those ones where the Leafs started taking it to him. We're playing very well. They have the lead. And then he makes that giant toe save right there, which is a great athletic ability. And he didn't get injured, which is nice, right? This is something where, it's late in the game. Something could happen. And that changes the whole game and seals the 2 points for the Leafs.
Yeah, that was big. In the second period specifically, and obviously we'll get to the big story. We're not going to bury the lead. The 2 Nylander brothers playing together. I thought that was so cool. I thought it was awesome. They're getting spins together on the power play and even 5-on-5. But my major takeaway, Marner and Nylander, man, were outstanding in that game. They were buzzing. Utah had no answers for those 2.
Yeah, it's gross. Nylander's plays in traffic and his poise to make plays at the blue line, that keep in last night on the power play at the blue line. And then he walks through everybody. And then the awareness to shoot the puck from the corner, recognizing where Vejmelka was, struggling to get back to the post at that point. Cause Vejmelka didn't have his feet set, he's moving. So his just physics, he's moving forward. It takes him a lot longer to stop and try to get back to the post. Just that awareness is world class, and just some of the plays he makes and, to finish. And then you see Nylander on the breakaway, just his speed, he was gone. Like, you get one step and these guys are absolutely gone. And I could argue right now, this might be some of the best hockey I've seen Mitch Marner play. Like, he's had streaks and points of it at a time, but again, I feel like right now it's better than ever and it's impressive. And I know right away, we're going to be like, well, what's he going to do in the playoffs? But we can't control that right now. We can only do what's in front of us and how he's playing, and it's been impressive so far.
I thought it was interesting, the statistic I heard last night, Huts, about the fact that Austin Matthews has now been out for 8 games, and Marner has recorded one or more points, like multi-point efforts in 7 of those 8 games. Like, think about that. He has really, really stepped up in the absence here.
Yeah, and it's something I wish I could like dive into more, like try to peel it back and understand why, but I've never been in that situation, right? Like as a goalie, it's like you're playing your own little game inside the game, right? I've never been that guy with like, my wingman or what he's dealing with. The way I see it in my sense is like sometimes Marner probably playing with Matthews, he feels like he needs to feed the beast too, right? Like he needs to be an impact player to Matthews alone, where now in this situation that pressure's off, Marner just kind of has the restrictor cap off and he's just playing to play and reading. But right now, the way he handles the puck, his poise and traffic, and I heard him talking about that, like trusting his edges in an interview, talking about with working with his skating coach. And I found that very interesting because he has so much poise in like high danger areas where a lot of players don't have that. And that's very, very hard to teach. And it's something that is so impressive. And for him, there's a seldom amount of guys in this league and in this world that can do what he can do in high danger areas.
The other thing I really like right now is this team's playing really well on home ice. Like, we've talked about this a lot the last couple of years, where Scotiabank Arena hasn't been a difficult spot for opponents to come into. And I mean, 10 wins in 13 games, not too shabby. They're 10-3-0 here, and they actually lead the entire league in home ice victories right now.
And I promise you, Nikki, that is something that Craig Berube has been on these guys about, right? He is an old school guy, and I remember playing with him as a coach, as an assistant when I was in St. Louis, and talking about that, like you want to create a home atmosphere where like teams don't want to come there. Like they know it's going to be hell, right? This is the same. When I played for Barry Trotz, we talked about that a lot in Nashville. Like he always called it our Coliseum, right? Like this is your rink. You want to make it hard. And I know that feeling playing on certain road teams. There's teams where you would play. I always felt the Dallas Stars were this way. When I played them in the Central Division for years, we'd play them on the road and it was like easy. And then you'd go into the rink and it was almost like the game was faster. Colorado Avalanche, where Toronto for years, it's been like one of these buildings where it's like, suit and tie and doesn't have that same energy, where now they are making it a hard place to come. Like you're going to come into our rink and try to get 2 points. Like good luck. This is going to be hell. And I think that is, again, what they're building toward, especially as the future comes and everyone has the daunting thought of like, what are the playoffs going to be like? Well, we've been playing this brand of hockey for so long. We don't need to try to turn a switch on because it's already here.
Well, generally speaking, I think that's the ideology behind this. Like, it's an 82 game trial until it gets going for real in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And I will say they're starting to build some consistency where night after night, it's the same looking team, the same brand, the same style. I thought they were a bit more open, to be honest, in that game against Utah on Sunday night. But like defensively speaking, they're locked in. They're making some good plays. Special teams, for the most part, has been good. Like a lot of contributing factors as to why they're getting the job done. But to me, it still makes no sense where you're missing like 5 or 6 or 7 regulars, and there's been no dip in play. And maybe that just speaks true volumes to the system and the structure that Craig Berube has in place, right?
Yeah, I think it does a lot. I compare a lot to Carolina, right? Like they lost all those players. Everyone thought they're going to take a step back, but they don't because of a good system, and they're coached well. And I think that's something that's super important for Craig Berube and his staff. But there's also some guys in this lineup that are going to have a wake-up call too, right? You look at Robertson, he hits a post yesterday, like he cannot score. And I think as guys start to get healthy, he's going to be fearing for his life because the way it's gone so far for him, he hasn't been able to produce, and that's kind of his role. But it's going to be tough here moving forward for him.
I agree with Craig Berube's assessment after the game. He gave the vote of confidence to Nick Robertson. I thought he was really good, just really, really stymied. And for anybody who's played any level of sports in general, when things are not going your way, they're not going your way. And 1 goal in 18 games. He hit a post yesterday. I thought he was flying. Missed a backdoor tap in that seemed really, really simple. He's up against it right now. And unfortunately, I do feel like Nick Robertson is running out of time because some of these regulars are going to come back at some point in time. And if Alex Nylander continues to cause chaos, and Grabenkin and Fraser Minton, I think, has looked pretty good through a couple games, the internal competition is ramping up. And I just don't know if that bodes well for a guy like Nick Robertson.
It doesn't. And I to agree with you on the point of he has played well on the other side of the puck, right? He's doing a lot of good things. He's working hard, but when you're paid to score goals, it is tricky when you're not scoring goals, right? And you're not going to be in that bottom 6 consistently. So what I find for him is just, I think goes for general, right? I think right now this is a good problem to have too, again, because it's going to be a grind, right? There's going to be injuries come playoff time, come late in the season. So to have as many guys going as you can is going to be super important for this Leafs team because of the fact where if you're trying to gear up for a long playoff run, it'd be nice for Berube to have pieces to move in and out. Because the year they won in St. Louis, that's what he did all the time. He was always jockeying guys in and out, trying to find the right format to where they can get, especially with whatever matchup they line up getting.
What did you see in Alex Nylander? We talked about how cool it was. They became the 13th set of brothers to play for the franchise and the 5th set to play a game together for the Leafs. Nylander, his debut, +1, 2 shots on goal, 10:37 of ice huts.
I thought he played well. I think he always has been a great player, right? He was in Buffalo with me when I was there. And, a skilled guy, I think he's one of those ones where maybe having a brother that is so ultra skilled and offensively gifted, he needed a little bit of grooming on the other side of the puck, right? Which most players do, right? And I feel like a lot of players that struggle trying to get into the lineup is finding a way to be better on the other side of the puck, right? Because that's where you're going to be, right? He's not good enough to be an Austin Matthews to score all the time. He can chip in here or there, where you look at like a player like Bobby McMahon, who's learned to play on the other side of the puck first. And then when he gets his opportunity, he cashes in and can get some points and help out. And I was really impressed with him. And that's a big night for him, right? Like his brother's been on the stage for a long time, but I think for Alex Nylander, it went very well. And obviously being able to, get a win at home with his brother was pretty cool experience.
Let me ask you this, though. What do you think Alex Nylander needs to do to stay up with this team? Because we had this debate in terms of our Leafs Morning Take chat the last couple of days, what this symbolizes giving Alex Nylander an NHL contract here.
Well, I think it symbolizes that he's earned it in a sense, right? I also think there's a little bit of love for William here. Like, you know what I mean? A guy who is your star, we're going to sign your brother. And he had a lot of points last year in Columbus, too. It's not like this guy was, I think, how many games did he play last year? He had 11 goals in like 20-something games, 30 games.
Yeah.
Like, he could have took an NHL job somewhere else. He wanted to be in Toronto. He wanted to be with his brother. But for him to stay in the NHL, he needs to be reliable and he needs to not have a shift off, especially when it comes to the defensive side of the puck, right? The offense, he's not expected to score all the time, but I also think there's some non-negotiables in his game that need to, be there if he wants to be consistently playing all the time for Craig Berube and the Leafs.
So, Huts, we saw a reunion last night. It's time for a reunion right now here on Leafs Morning Take. The following interview is brought to you by Charm Diamond Centers. Get custom ring building delivered in less than 2 weeks. With the Charm Masterpiece program and unbeatable pricing policy, Charm Diamond Centers is proudly Canadian-owned and operated since 1972 with more than 85 locations across the country through Charm and their sister brands. For more information, go to charmdiamondcenters.com as we bring in your former GM, newly minted Hockey Hall of Famer. It is David Poile. David, congratulations. How are you?
I'm great. How are you guys doing? Good to see you, Carter. Haven't seen you in a long time.
Yeah, it's been a while, David. Obviously, I've been watching from a distance here into my new career here, trying to spark up some media, but it's been a lot of fun and obviously great having you on and great hearing from you.
Good. Are you in Thunder Bay?
I am. Yeah, we are back in Thunder Bay. We're settled here. So this is nice. I'm in my kid's bedroom actually right now. So this is my media workspace. So I do everything digitally from here and it's been a lot of fun so far.
Yeah, well, they kicked me out of the office, so I'm in the kitchen of our house here. So I know how you feel.
David, great to get you on, man. First and foremost, congratulations once again. You're a Hockey Hall of Famer. Has it sunk in yet?
When it sunk in, it was so great. First of all, the Hall of Fame did a fantastic event, I guess you'd say, 4 or 5 days for all 7 of us that got in, our families, our friends. You have a ring ceremony. When you get that's kind of cool. You have to get your blazer ceremony. You go to a Leafs game. You drop the puck. We had our own party on the night before with friends, relatives, a lot of my former colleagues, former coaches, assistant general managers, all that stuff, and then you have the induction on Monday. So it's a huge event, and it was just perfect. I couldn't have scripted it any better for what I hoped for. And that moment when it set in, it was actually, and I'd say unfortunately, it was about halfway through my speech. I just I hesitated for a second, and it was like that moment where you go, "What am I doing here?" Like, I'm in the Hockey Hall of Fame. If I had it to do over again, I would have probably just stopped and just told everybody what was on my mind right then, because I wonder what they thought when I hesitated. But I don't know. It's the same old thing we always say. You get into hockey because you love the sport and everybody wants to be a player. And I tried my best to be a player. I wasn't quite good enough to do that. So it was pretty natural for me to go on the other side. My dad, as you know, he's in the Hall of Fame also. And he started 2 expansion franchises, one in Philadelphia and one in Vancouver. And I sort of wanted to follow in his footsteps. So when I had the chance to go to Nashville, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to see if I could do that. I talked to my dad about, watched him over the years and so many things, like what was right with it, what he would do differently, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm so happy I made that decision. And I think Carter would vouch a little bit for this. I mean, Nashville's such a great city. It's grown. The hockey part of it is great. They call it Smashville now, and it's just got better and better. So no regrets, nothing I want to change other than it would be nice to win a couple on the way. But we're really happy with my career, really happy with the hockey. Just a lucky guy, very grateful.
Yes, David. Obviously, so many accomplishments throughout your career. And for me, I think, looking back on it and giving me an opportunity is obviously something that means a lot to me in Nashville. You touched on that. But for you, like, as you reflect on your career, is there one thing you would put your finger on that as your greatest accomplishment? I know it's hard to sum it all up in one point, but, just from the outside looking in here for us.
No, I don't ever look at it that way, because there's wins and losses, highs and lows, and good trades, bad trades, all the different things. I'm really happy with the longevity. I hope there's some consistency to that. I mean, in my years, in Washington, I was very fortunate in timing. I took over a team that had missed the playoffs for, I think, 8 consecutive years. And then we went on to have pretty good success, which has continued for almost 45 years there in Washington. Well, one thing that happened was there in my first 10 days, I made a really huge trade with Montreal Canadiens when traded for Rod Langway, who won 2 Norris trophies, Brian Engblom, Craig Laughlin, and Doug Jarvis. And that was a trade that really changed the whole team competitively, the culture. The team really has never looked back under other leadership, Ryan McClellan, George McPhee, and now Chris Patrick. But I think they've had the third best record in the NHL, including the Stanley Cup, over the last 45 years. So pretty proud of that. But I think the longevity, the consistency, I think the builder moniker that I have today for getting into the Hockey Hall of Fame, I think that's appropriate. I feel that's what I was. I feel that's what my dad was, a coach and a manager. He was also a commissioner. So the Poiles are pretty strong in the buildings side of hockey. So proud of that.
Yeah, no, you've done some amazing things, and that's what really stood out for me about your career, just the longevity, as you mentioned, how long you've done it, how long you've been successful. How's retirement going? You enjoying it?
Yeah, it's been fantastic. It's been we're a year and a half into it now. You're going to be jealous of all the things I'm going to tell you now. I mean, where haven't we been? My wife and I, in the last
Nice.
year and a half, we've been to Italy, we've been over to Europe on a cruise, we've been to Greece, we've been to England, we've been to Hawaii. Went to a couple of weeks ago, went to the Sphere in Vegas to see the Eagles play. So I got a lot of making up to do for the last 50 years in hockey, but we're really enjoying it. Again, I'm an advisor with the Preds, and Barry and I have a really strong relationship going back 50 years. When he was first a player at my first training camp as a GM with the Washington Capitals. So still doing a few things with with the Preds, and I'm around a bit here and there. And Saturday night was the Preds have started their own called the Golden Hall of Fame, and we brought Shea Weber in on Saturday night to drop the puck, and Shea, Pekarene, and myself are going to be on January 16th. They're going to go into the Preds Golden Hall. So just another good milestone for our franchise in terms of seems like it was just yesterday, but we've been out 26 years as a franchise, and we have a Hall of Fame player, and Shea Weber, and maybe Pekarene is not too far behind.
Yeah, 2 guys that had a big impact on my career. And I feel like that's something that I always found playing in Nashville. We had such great leadership with it. It was Pekka, Fisher, Paul Gostad, Eric Knight. You filled the room with that. You took so much pride in that. Now looking at this Leafs team, with Craig Berube coming there, a former Stanley Cup winner, and what they have, what do you see in this Leafs roster that gives you that potential, to maybe make a run here, get past the first and second round here?
Well, I think first of all, you just started with Craig Berube, and I know Craig pretty well. He played for me and my teams in Washington. To talk about competitive people and play the game the right way or the hard way or what have you. No disrespect to anything that's happened with the Leafs before, but everything kind of has timing. I mean, both their rosters now little bit more, a year more mature and more experience, and been through, some really good times and some difficult and disappointing times. And Craig Berube's probably coming in at a really good time and a little bit different approach. So I think the stars are kind of lining up for the Leafs. I have a lot of friends and family that are Leafs fans, and they're forever, as I say, how are your ankles today? They're forever jumping on and off the bandwagon and keep breaking their ankles because they don't believe. But I don't know. They look really good to me. I mean, and they're now they're playing in a situation where without arguably their best player in Austin Matthews, and they're doing very, very well. I mean, that was another, so maybe it's an event that took place, but it's a significant event to see how they handle different things. And that's what the Leafs have always been, every team that doesn't quite get where you think they should go, they always go, they didn't do it here or what have you. So they're doing it without Austin Matthews. So I think I really like the Leafs team. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, no, it's been really interesting, right? As you referenced, now 7-1-0 without Austin Matthews in the lineup, could return as early as Wednesday here, and a big one against the Florida Panthers on the road. But I want to get in your GM brain a bit. Obviously, just an illustrious career, but Marner and Tavares specifically are in contract years. Do you recall scenarios, situations in your career where you sort of had to make some tough calls like this? Because this is a big topic of discussion in this market, what the Maple Leafs and Brad Treliving specifically should do in the coming months leading up to free agency when it comes to Mitch Marner and John Tavares.
I'm no longer getting paid the big bucks to make those decisions. Everybody's got to do it their own way. I could have your job and I could throw out my opinion, which you're kind of asking at this time, and you guys are free to offer your opinions, and that's what makes the world go round, especially in the Toronto area. But I'm not in Brad Treliving's shoes. I don't know all the ins and outs of what their relationship is and where they should be going. All I know is that these things always seem to get worked out one way or another. Maybe it's not without a little bit of trials and tribulations and some tough moments, but if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. And again, it's easy for me to sit here and say that today. And believe me, I probably wouldn't have had that answer a couple of years ago. But you just got to do what's right. If you can't force somebody, to sign. You can't overpay somebody just because that's the right thing to do. I mean, a manager's job is to get your eye on today for sure in the next game, but you have to have a 3 or 4 year plan and how it all fits in. And I do not know the Leafs situation as intimately as maybe I should now, or for sure whatever they know, and they have different things up there in terms of what they got. Players coming up. I mean, you got to fit in a younger player if you're going to sign a guy to a bigger contract. There's 100 different things, but if I'm the Leafs, if you're just asking me for a quick answer, I'd keep my eye on the ball for this year because they look really good. And it's Marner's meant to sign with the Leafs and he wants to sign with the Leafs. He'll find a way to do that, whether it's during the season or after the season.
Yeah, I think well spoken, David. Just the fact of the matter is there's so many moving parts that go into it, right? I think even as a player going through free agency and what the process is can be a bit overwhelming, right? Then you start adding in family and everything like that. And, throughout your career, you obviously ended up making a lot of trades, right? Some big ones, obviously Shea Weber to Montreal. But was there any trades that never went through that possibly could have happened with the Leafs or someone specifically that was on the block, right? Because obviously this is a Leaf show, right? So we got to dig in a little bit if there was any history with Toronto back in the day.
I don't think I'm that guy, Carter. I don't think it's, they said, are you going to write a book? I don't think I'm going to write a book. I mean, I've had a couple of trades that I thought were going to happen that didn't happen, and they would have been huge trades. But I don't, as they say, it's not like these people are dead. They're still alive. Yeah. Players are still playing, so, you make 100 calls to maybe make one trade. Just different things, and half the things that you read about aren't even true. Some of the rumors out there, but I get it. You have to, create some interest. I mean, I think I laugh at myself when I don't know if you heard my Hall of Fame speech, but one of the things that I said was that Cliff Fletcher was my mentor, who was the Leafs general manager at one time, and I was young and brash and full of myself. And I would go into his office every day and I would come up with, I would call the suggestion of the day, like, why aren't we trading this guy? Why aren't we doing this? Why aren't we doing that? And it was day after day after day. And obviously one day I caught him at the wrong time and I walked in his office and he pointed his finger, David, if you are ever so lucky to become a general manager, you'll realize what it's like to pull the trigger to make a trade, to uproot a player and his family and change the trajectory of his career. I turned around with had my tail through my legs, and I remembered that message. And then what I said is that who would have known at that time that I would go on to have made the most trades ever in the National Hockey League? But I always remember what you said.
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of trades and stuff like that. I just, that's also my major takeaway is just how professional you were in handling the media. Obviously, I dealt with you quite a bit when I was with NHL Network Radio. And just because like some GMs, like, the media, you can use it to your advantage. Some you don't. Like, I thought you were very quiet in how you did business. You take a passion in doing that, pride in doing that.
I think everybody has their own style. I mean, it's certainly part of the game. I think some people are more comfortable with it than others. I probably put myself in the middle of the road there. I enjoyed the relationships for the most part. Sometimes, just to be honest, sometimes the media I thought got a little mean-spirited, not necessarily to me, but to other people in the business. And I think that's really unfortunate when that happens. But I think you try to be as truthful as you can. And when I say that, you can't be truthful all the time. You're protecting your team, whether it be something simple like an injury or just, when they ask you, would you ever trade so-and-so, and you look them right in the eye and say, no, you wouldn't do that. Next week you trade the guy. I mean, I'm not, that's just, you can't do that. So, but, you try to get out in front of them. I don't think you shy away from it or try to hide, so to speak. You just have to, we're in the entertainment business and people are really like our product, our players and our team. And they want to be part of it and they want to report on it. So we have to do that. So I hope I had a decent relationship with the media. I don't think I was a great quote. I don't think I ever wanted to be a great quote. I thought I would like to be just as honest as I possibly could to tell everybody where we are.
I always admired how you did your job. Last but not least, what was it like to have Carter Hutton?
Unbelievable. Not only Carter, but you got his dad too. I mean, how good was that? Now we had some really good times together. I felt with our team and our chemistry at that time. It felt that was a good time in our career. I hope Carter would feel the same way. I mean, my memories are all really, really good. I don't have any negative memories at all. I got a question for Carter, which something I'm pretty proud of. We played now 26, 27 years with the Predators. How many goalies have actually played at least one game with the Predators, Carter?
I don't know that. We were talking about that before you came on. I know there's not a lot of goalies in the history of the team, though. Like, for you guys have done so well with goaltendings. I'm not sure. I don't even know. I'm up there somewhere on the pretty high on the list of wins, I think. And I only played 3 seasons. And majority of the time I was just making sure Pekka had a nice warm coffee between periods.
I think the number is either 12 or 13, which I think is remarkable.
Yeah,
that's I'm giving you credit and all the other goalies that played for us. How cool is that? I mean, I'm sure if you check every other team, I bet it's twice as many goalies. So
yeah, it's so impressive.
Yeah.
And obviously I'm grateful too, because I feel like at that point I was, bouncing around the American League, and I think just you being able to take a chance on me, obviously Mitch and Benny really liked me, but you had the final say and to bring me in there, and obviously change the trajectory of my life and my hockey career. So I will always be grateful, and obviously there's ties between Thunder Bay and the Poile family, but I'm super grateful, my family and I.
Yeah. You're more than welcome. Thank you for your good play with the Predators. Come and see us sometime.
Oh yeah, we're coming down soon. We'll be down there.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
All right, David. Thank you so much for your time. Once again, congratulations. We'll talk soon. Okay.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Bye.
See you, David.
How was that for a little reunion, Huts?
Yeah, it's great. Obviously, it was one. That's, I guess, the other side of hockey that is tricky, right? It's like I got to a point in my career where I had kind of played my way out of the team. I had enough options to try to go somewhere else. I never wanted to leave, but again, like you said, it is a business, right? They have to move on. It's dollars and cents. And, but yeah, it was cool. That was obviously a great getting to chat with them. And again, just one of those guys that just flew under the radar as a GM too. Like he said, he never wanted to be known for having a quote. And even tiptoeing around some of the questions. He didn't want to say anything that, what's done is done, right? He doesn't want to dig up any skeletons.
I was asking the obligatory Marner Tavares question. Credit to you for the question. Hey, did you ever make a big trade with the Leafs? He really wanted to say those names, but he didn't. So credit to him as well, right?
Yeah, I agree. And that honestly, something I struggle with too on this other side, right? I got so many stories on guys and things. And the last thing I want to do is throw somebody under the bus, right? Of someone that doesn't. Yeah, it's tricky, right? It's tricky being in that position, especially a guy that's played and a guy like him who's been around these players for a long time.
Meantime, December 2nd, next Monday. I cannot wait for this day for a variety of reasons. Connor Bedard's in town. No, I'm kidding. The Sheet with Jeff Marek is debuting at 3 p.m. Eastern time on the Daily Faceoff YouTube channel. As you bring in the one and only Jeff Marek. What's going on, buddy?
What do you, Nick Carter? Great to be along with you guys. What are you doing putting me on? You have David Poile. Take him as long as you can. I'll tell you what. There's a few things. And Carter, I do have a question about goaltending with Nashville. But before I get there, one of the reasons, first of all, you guys know the Poile name is hockey royalty. Like the Patrick family, who I consider hockey's first family, the Poiles are right there. But what I loved about what David Poile did coming out of the 04-05 lockout is something also that Carolina under Jim Rutherford did. There are only two teams that did this. It was Carolina and Nashville. And if you'll recall, they were the only two teams coming out of the NHL lockout, 2005, brand new salary cap. For those that remember, by the way, the salary cap's upper limit was $39 million. Let that sink in. And I remember talking to David Poile about it. He's like, the bottom limit is 21. I don't even know if we can hit that. But one of the things that I love about Nashville and Carolina, and credit to David Poile and Jim Rutherford for this one, they published the salaries. And both of them said, look, and specifically in Nashville, David Poile's point was always look, we have essentially a new fan base that we're trying to educate here about the game of hockey. And we owe it to our fans to understand how we're putting our roster together. And now they need to understand this new variable, which is the salary cap. So all we're trying to do is educate our fans about how we're using our money and how we're putting this thing together. That was such a forward-thinking move from such an old school guy that I always had a real sort of nod of respect to David Poile. He just mentioned the conversation with Cliff Fletcher a second ago about making trades and young whippersnapper, bugging Cliff Fletcher all the time. But he is an old school guy, right? Jim Rutherford, old school guy. And they were the two visionaries who said, you know what? The future is letting fans in on how much, not just how much do players make, but how we're using our money, how much we're signing guys for. Always respected David Poile for that. Now, Carter, real quick, for you, when the Nashville Predators transitioned from Barry Trotz's head coach to Peter Laviolette as head coach, Pekka Rinne struggled initially. And here's what I was told. Tell me whether this is right or wrong. I was told that Pekka Rinne is a player that in the first period wanted a lot of shots, wanted to feel the puck, wanted to get that feel, wanted to get into the game. And Peter Laviolette's entire Nashville system was all predicated on shot suppression, which is music to the ears of someone like Matthias Ekholm. Was that true? Was that hard for Pekka Rinne not getting the volume of shots he got under Barry Trotz?
Yeah, I think that's bang on. I think Pekka was a guy that flourished being busy, right? And early in his career in Nashville, their team was so bad, and he got in the game when he got work, right? You know what? Peter Laviolette came in, and one thing I can still hear it ringing in my ears, Jeff, is him yelling reload. Because I would sit on the bench beside him, and he was always about reloading the players back to protect the house, to not give up any chances. And I think that's something we struggle with. And the other transition I really noticed from Barry Trotz to Peter Laviolette was his pregame speeches. Barry was just business, right? He'd walk in, starting lineup, let's go to work. Laviolette, he lit a fire under your ass every single time. And I also think that's why Laviolette has a bit of a shelf life, right? Because he's there for a few years. You kind of start to go tone deaf to that. And I think that was a big issue with Pekka. And for me, that was a great year because I got to play more, had a better chance to play. And obviously Pekka Rinne's world class. And I think for him, when he was busier, getting the transition into that better defense, it took time, but cream rises to the top. And we're talking about Pekka Rinne here.
The other thing I always loved about Nashville was they always had a slugger. And it started with Patrick Cote, who was one of the toughest of the toughs, and then Jim McKenzie. And later, now, were you there for Darcy Hordachuk?
I wasn't. No, he was. I was after Darcy Hordachuk. I got to know Darcy, but he was after me.
First of all, his kid's an amazing hockey player. Second of all, he had the perfect season. Alberga, I know you're going to love this. So this would have been, so you would have left for 2006, 2007, 2008, Darcy Hordachuk, who was just raw bone tough. Go look on YouTube, his fights with Mel Engelstad. Those are two beauties in the old International League.
The Mangler.
The Mangler, right? The firefighter of Manitoba.
Sick nickname.
Yeah.
That's right.
He wore 69 for the Washington Capitals.
And he once told me that his biggest thrill was in a preseason game playing against Chicago, and he asked Bob Probert to fight, and Probert caught him with 3 real quick in the face, and all I could think about was, this is my hero. How cool is this? Bob Probert's punching me in the face. So yeah, those fights with the Mangler were something. But so Hordachuk in 2007, 2008, think about this for a second. Some of you may need to pull out pencils here. I know we said there would be no math, but here comes the math. Darcy Hordachuk had 60 minutes in penalties, okay? 12 fights. He did not cost his team a single minute shorthanded. If you look at perfect seasons for tough guys, to my knowledge, there's only been one who turned in a perfect season, and that's Darcy Hordachuk. 12 fights, 60 minutes in penalties, did not cost his team at all. Not one minor. All fighting majors. Darcy Hordachuk. Over to you, Alberga.
That's a perfect segue for the cheat with Jeff Marek. That's the type of shit you're going to hear on that.
Yeah. Right? So enlightening. I heard you glowing about me earlier. It was really embarrassing. My wife's in the next room saying, do I need to insult you now? Take you down a couple of pegs? Like, holy smokes, I have to widen the door frames to get my head in the house now.
We love you, man. We're pumped to have you on the team. We got December 2nd. We're going to tee that up. We want to talk some Leafs as well, first and foremost. Then we'll get some OHL conversation with you. But the Nylander brothers, how cool is that to see that?
I love it, right? I mean, hockey at the end of it. I mean, hockey when we all start is all about family, and it's about, mom and dad and brothers and sisters and around the rink and all that. And you love to see it happen when everybody's a grown up. Like, I think we all wondered, even going back to when Alex Nylander was a first round pick of the Buffalo Sabres. Carter, you would have known him well, as you mentioned, playing in the Swords organization. I know he was a big video game guy in Rochester, was what I was always told. Like, he was like a lot of the guys. Patrick Laine was a big one as well, but he was a big video game guy in Roch. But I mean, I just think it's cool. Like, I have no idea who would have been more nervous last night, Alex or Willie. For that one, how much of a thrill that must have been for Michael Nylander as well. One of the great and underrated centers of his time. One of the best centers that Yager, I know he had Mario, but one of the best centers that Yager ever had when he played with the New York Rangers. I just thought it was a cool moment. Like, he was like, okay in the game, like nothing special. I don't know that in a moment like that with that much, emotion and maybe nervous anticipation or anxiety, like you can expect a whole lot. I thought he was just okay, but I just thought it was cool, whether it's, Pavel and Valeri getting together or whether it's Alex and Willie getting together. Just kind of reminds people that at the heart of all of it, there's something special when brothers get together in the NHL.
Yeah, it's so impressive, obviously. And, obviously not far from Thunder Bay, seeing the Stahl brothers, all three. I saw a photo. I was actually on Instagram. They're talking about brothers in the league and seeing Jared, Jordan, and Eric all play together. And, and again, with this Leafs team, they're obviously playing in the right direction here now. What do you think, like, moving forward would be the piece they start to add, when you really start talking about, making a run come playoff time?
Goals. Right. Like the problem is not defending. I mean, I guess, the main thing, I keep drawing the analogy with the hospital bracelet, but keep the goaltenders healthy. Carter, I heard you mention a second ago on that Carcone save. Like, the most impressive thing about it was that Joseph Wall stayed in the game and didn't get hurt, because it's a moment like that you look at, and how many times have we seen, oh, great save, but he's making the skate to the bench, or here comes the trainer. Stolarz has been the story this year. If Joe Wall can stay healthy, then all of a sudden that takes care of that problem. And the one thing that we've seen in the playoffs for the Maple Leafs year in and year out is an inability to find the back of the net. I know it may sound folly when you have, Matthews and John Tavares and William Nylander and Mitch Marner in the lineup, but really come playoff time, their issue is goals. And provided everybody can stay healthy and Brad Treliving can address that, maybe, just maybe, this team finally has a run.
I ask this question every year, Marek.
I know.
I ask this question every year, man.
but here's the thing. Yeah. Okay, so every season there are some teams where I don't want to say the regular season is meaningless, because that's frivolous. The regular season does mean something, and I think winning the President's Trophy is an actual accomplishment. But for some teams, there are no answers in the regular season. All the answers, all the questions are all in the playoffs. For the longest time before they went to the Stanley Cup final against the Boston Bruins in 2011, that was the Vancouver Canucks. Whatever about the regular season, what are they going to? And that team is Toronto. And every year there's a few teams where it doesn't really matter what happens in the regular season. There's not going to be anything you're going to hang your hat on from the regular season. Maybe watching a player, shoot for an individual award, but all the questions, all the answers for this team are in the playoffs. This is a team that starts game 83. That's when all the questions start to get answered.
Yeah, and I think for this team, like moving forward, again, I guess it feels like a formality at this point, Jay. Like the regular season is what it is. Yeah. But we start talking about some of these players that, may be the odd man out, especially once everyone gets healthy. But do you look at like Fraser Mitten and Eastern Cowan as like those untouchables moving forward? Or these guys that are going to be the next wave of superstars, headed into this Leafs roster?
I don't think untouchable is too strong. I mean, first of all, Easton Cowan may be it's a fat. Okay, so here's what I think a lot about Easton Cowan the last couple of weeks with this NCAA CHL story. And I know it's the London Knights and it's the mini NHL team. And I know, hey, we can compete against, the American Hockey League. That's who we're competing against. I get it. But if you're allowed to go to NCAA hockey this year out of the CHL, do you think that's where we would see Easton Cowan this year? That he wouldn't be in London. Like it would be like Michigan. By the way, Michigan is going to be super aggressive. Like I think they're expecting like some big name CHLers next year, but like Michigan, BU, Wisconsin, like take your pick. Like that's probably where we would see Easton Cowan this year if what we're seeing now would have happened last season. Because he's at that too good for the OHL level.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No, I was going to add that. Like, what else is like the guy? I don't think he can tell you the last time he didn't register a point in an OHL game. It's been that long.
Was it like 15 game streak now or something like that? It's crazy.
It's ridiculous. Yeah. But he's like
good.
That's good my player. Wondering too is like you watch him in camp. You're like, what else does he have to prove? Like he'd be the perfect example of a guy like a Minton right now. I know they're a year difference, but like to be in the AHL would be huge and beneficial, I think, to Cowan.
It would, and how quickly that conversation has now changed to, hey, you know what? He should probably go play college hockey for a year. Like that's the way it's like. We know that all these arrangements and relationships, like everything is going to change. And eventually, once the lawsuit is done, then the NHL will get involved. As long as there's a lawsuit that is active, I can't see the NHL. I'll put it this way. I can't see the NHL sitting around on a Monday morning saying like, we should get involved because we feel like having our emails subpoenaed. Like I can't, they're going to wait until all of this is done. And then like, don't you get the feeling, guys, that the NHL is going to come in and say, okay, and this is going to be like a Bill Daly file. Okay, this is how it's all going to work. And these are going to be the relationships between this organization and that organization. This is going to be the new CHL NHL agreement. And this is what it's going to mean for duration you have to sign a player after he gets drafted. And maybe we do something with the draft age. I don't know. But at a certain point, the NHL is going to come into this thing and say, okay, these are going to be the relationships now. And all those conversations, right? And when we had the same conversation about, Taylor Hall, he's too good for the OHL, but should he be in the NHL right now? Maybe the American League. We've had every year, there's a few players we have the convo about. We're having it about Easton Cowan right now. All of a sudden now there is another option. We never thought it would be NCAA hockey, but it is. It will be Division I. You know what? You sort of outgrow the OHL, but you're not quite there yet for the NHL. You know what? Let me tell you about Colorado College. Let me tell you about Nodak. Let me tell you about et cetera, Penn State, et cetera. I think that's going to be the new model, and that's why I say like Easton Cowan would probably be playing Division I right now.
Yeah, and this is a good segue for me because this week I got a call from I played at UMass Lowell, so alumni there. Norm Bazin, successful coach, called me this week, asked to reach out. I've had conversations. They're looking for goalies from the OHL now. He called me. He's like, do I know anyone? Because he knows I train goalies and help out in the summer. Now with OHL expansion, these rules, what is your take on this OHL expansion now, as it starts to grow? And again, it's such a changing landscape right now here for the OHL and the NCAA.
So Elliot reported on the weekend on Hockey Night that the OHL is going to go with, I believe the term was it aggressive expansion? Am I saying that right? I should probably just texted Freeds before I came on. Aggressive expansion. That's consistent with what I've heard as well. So about a month and a half ago, I reported that in the summer, I believe it was late August, 2 teams from the USHL, Muskegon and Youngstown, had approached the Ontario League about joining that league, or what the process could have been, or maybe just sort of, I think it was stronger than just, a mild curiosity and kicking tires. Like I believe they're serious. Reported that. I believe that is still, I'm of the belief that is still being discussed. I don't know if there are more teams in the USHL that are interested or how that might work, but that is still a discussion point in the Ontario League. So I think that's going to be another one of the sidebar questions we have here. What is the OHL going to look like? There's now rumors in the QMJHL of them expanding into the United States. I've heard Manchester, by the way, guys. I've heard Manchester is perhaps a destination in the queue. I do wonder if there'll be a struggle between the QMJHL and the OHL over New York State, which right now is jurisdiction of the OHL. But I mean, if I'm the Q right now, I'm saying like, look how much the Western League has to draw from. What about the OHL? Like, okay, take your pick. Like, you can have New York State or you can have Florida. You can't have both. Give us one of them. I think we're wondering what that's going to look like. I think we're wondering what the USHL out of all of this is going to look like. The BCHL is, most likely will go through more pain as they're starting to lose players. And the whispers are out there about which teams are staying and which teams are going. And Chris Gear is doing the review of which teams should be in the new junior A, BCHL, et cetera, et cetera. So that one's going to be a tricky one to sort out. But as far as the OHL goes, like, Carter, this is a 20-team league. Right now it's a great hothouse for talent. It almost seems as if this is the sort of perfect hothouse based on the skill and talent that is in Ontario and all of the United States regions that the OHL can draw from. Now they'll be drawing from more with the new reality of NCAA options being available. It's a league that's going to grow. I don't know how many. I've heard everything from 2 to 6. 6, of course, being the maximum. That one would be, if there's like 6 new teams, like, that's massive. But again, these are all, you guys hear it too. These are all the whispers of things that are going on right now. It's November. These are all things that, of course, have to be dealt with throughout the year, but I still think we're a little bit of a ways away from anything declarative about next year. But I do think that the appetite for expansion in the OHL is really high, and I expect it to happen. And again, those 2 USHL teams are still under discussion.
What a fun time to be alive. Yeah.
And then what about and I mentioned this to Dan McKenzie last week when I talked to him, the president of the CHL. Could we see a day where the development program team finds its way to the OHL?
I like that.
I don't know.
That'd be sick as well.
I don't know how that would work, right? Because there's a draft, and can you not trade? Or are they? I don't know. Like even with like the USHL teams, like, a lot of the players on these teams have already been drafted by OHL teams. So would they stay with the USHL team, or would they have to go to the OHL team that already drafted them? So there's a lot of sidebars to all of this. But Carter, I apologize. This is a very long-winded answer. And the real answer is yes, there will be more teams in the OHL.
Yeah, that's okay, man. We knew what we signed up for. We love it. We love it.
Yeah, no, you're a hockey encyclopedia. We love you for that. Lastly, so we had a chance to interview Jack Ivankovich last week at Brampton. What a great kid. But the CHL USA Prospect Challenge, what do you think of this new mini format, a 2-game mini series here with the CHL and the US, I think under 18 team?
Development team,
Who are some players to watch this week?
Okay, so first of all, you're going to see in these 2 games, no joke, you'll see minimum half of the first round of this year's NHL draft in these 2 games. And the CHL is absolutely stacked. Now, unfortunately, Mooney's injured for USA, and that's going to be a drag. But you're going to see half the NHL draft this year's first round in this game. I'll tell you what. Lots about Porter Martone of Brampton, and rightfully so. He may go first overall. Michael Misa of Saginaw, legit, like, smashed some records here. Granted exceptional status, play for the Mississauga Senators of the GTHL. The one guy that I keep coming back to, and I'll admit, this is a bias that I have. Like, I have a bias towards defensemen. Like, if you have two players of equal value in a draft, I always defer to the defenseman. Like, I'm the guy who would have said, we should take Victor Hedman, not John Tavares, first overall. Like, I'm that guy. Okay. Just, I have a positional bias that way. Mm-hmm. Matthew Schaefer is special. Matthew Schaefer is a defenseman that plays with the Erie Otters, played Halton Hills in his minor hockey. I have not seen a player skate like Jay Bouwmeester before until I saw Matthew Schaefer. I think he's a dark horse to go first overall, but for a team that has the same positional bias that I do, it wouldn't shock me if by the end of the season, Matthew Schaefer distinguishes himself as tops in this draft class. I know what Misa's doing. I know what Porter Martone is doing. And man, Martone is just a giant of a man too. And I know that James Higgins is doing as well. And right now he's, I don't want to say consensus, but most have him number one. But Matthew Schaefer is special. You talk about great skating defenseman and offensively minded defenseman, and can make a great first pass and can join the rush and get back first. Like, he is that guy. Like, honestly, if you guys haven't seen him skate, it's worth the price of admission, because if you take the name bar off, you look at him and you go like, that's Jay Bouwmeester. Like, just put like a Medicine Hat Tigers jersey on. You're like, that's Jay Bouwmeester. Like, have I like transported back into time? That's what you say. That's what you say when you see Matthew Schaefer skate.
Marek, excellent stuff. What can we expect December 2nd, next Monday, man? The launch of the sheet with Jeff Marek. I love that.
It's going to be a lot of fun. So, I mean, this one sort of exists in a weird time of the day, right, Nick? It's like 3:00 Eastern. So, like, the what happened the night before has already been dealt with, and maybe you're now just starting to think about the games coming up that day. So it gives us a lot of time to figure out what the power topic of that day is, and that's going to be sort of strategy of what we try to do every day. Like, if we can present from a 360-degree view, the big power topic of the day, not necessarily breaking down like, the Minnesota Wild's power play or, things like that. Then I think we're doing our job. Just every day figuring out what that power topic. There's gonna be, I don't want to spoil it, but there's gonna be a lot of sort of treats along the way for everybody, and a lot of my long-winded hockey stories, I'll apologize in advance, and arcane, stupid Darcy Hordachuk facts, but that make Carter Hutton giggle. Damn it! So it's worth it.
Well worth it. We look forward to it. That's for sure, Jeff.
I would say my prognostication, it won't be an hour show in a year from now. We're going to be looking at 3-4 hours. We need that. We need that.
Nick, like, you know me. Like, you swear I get paid by the word. Like, it's not going to be an hour show. An hour-ish is what it's going to be.
Well, Marek, I would say good luck, but you don't need it. You're going to smash it. We are so happy to have you. Appreciate your time today, man.
I'm dragging you two guys on, so don't worry. I'm dragging you in my door.
Sounds good. Take care, okay?
Look forward to it.
Be good, fellas.
Jeff Marek, again, December 2nd, launch next Monday. I feel like this announcement just happened yesterday. It's been a couple of weeks, and we're looking forward to the launch of this show, man. Marek's a heavy hitter for us, man. He's our 4-hitter.
Yeah, rightfully so. This is awesome. It's exciting times, and a guy who knows a lot about a sheet. He's got a nice outdoor rink there, so he's ready to go with this weather turning in. And I look forward to it. I think I learned so much. Even the drop in of the Mel Angelstead, like, just a great line. A guy that I know very well. He played in Thunder Bay for an old pro team, and not a lot of people know that. But if anyone watching, if you honestly watch Darcy Hordachuk versus Mel Angelstead, I think it's like the Solar Bears in the East Coast League or something like that. Like, I think they fought 2 or 3 times. Like, some of the craziest fights you will ever see on a professional hockey rink.
Just animals going at it. It's time for the last call, brought to you by Bet365. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365. Use code NATION, all in uppercase, NATION, all in uppercase. Today, a busy slate because American Thanksgiving on Thursday. Huts, a couple things I'll throw your way for this Monday slate, 11 in total. I like Florida in regulation against Washington. I think are due for a bit of regression. 0-2 without Alex Ovechkin in the lineup. And I can't believe I'm doing this. I'm going to the Ottawa Senators. I'm calling this a must-win. 5 straight losses. They're home to the Calgary Flames on prime Monday Night Hockey.
Yeah, I like the under in that game. I think Forsberg's going to come out motivated. I think Wolf has been really, really good this year so far. He's made a good adjustment. I also look for the Blues to defend well tonight, too, against the Rangers. That would be a game where I would be hitting the under, especially with Monty coming in, that new coach bump. And the other one that lies for me, I just think what stays in motion is going to keep going. I think I take the Devils in regulation over the Predators because they are still on the struggle bus. Sorry, I had to bring that up after David Poile was gone.
Yeah, he's long gone.
At least he got to go to the Sphere. Eh? He mentioned he went to the Sphere. I should have gave him a dig there. At least someone got to go.
Yeah, I was going to mention that too, because I guess he's not really in the mix anymore. It's Barry Trotz who pulled that trip, and we all know, what happened last year after they pulled the old trip to the Sphere and the U2 concert. They went on a crazy roll, but Nashville needs that type of roll to get back in the conversation. So Huts, we'll leave it at that. Should mention as well, you'll be back hosting the show on Thursday. No games in the NHL. American Thanksgiving. We'll be there, to recap the Leafs and Panthers game. I think arguably the biggest game of the year thus far on the schedule, the battle for first in the Atlantic Division. Should mention as well, Adam Copeland from AEW, formerly known as Edge from WWE, is going to drop by. I believe he's going to be at the game in Tampa, so we're going to tee things up with Adam Copeland coming up on Thursday as well.
Yeah, it's exciting, Nick. And again, you just keep this show that you don't even know what you're doing, right? You're just getting all these guests coming from every which way. I know you're a little fired up last time I was on. And again, 2 big hitters today, baby. Keep going. I love it, Nick. And thanks for having me on as always.
Well, I was fired up because somebody questioned my journalistic integrity and asked me if I'd been to school. And I said, yeah, I have 4 years of broadcasting schooling behind me. So, screw all of you. But no, Huts, great job. You killed it, dude. This is the longest show in the history of Leafs Morning Take, by the way. We're looking at like an hour and 10 minutes here.
Working overtime. I'm headed to DFO right now. So This is a busy day here. I keep this up, I'm going to hit 40 hours this month, my man.
Yeah, you might. So make sure you check out Daily Faceoff Live. Huts is going to pop on momentarily. Thank you to everybody in the chat at the Leafs Nation 401. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button. Leafs Morning Take wherever you find your podcast. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review. Jay Rosehill back in the mix on Tuesday. Should mention as well, producer Vic, as per usual, back in the mix. So many thanks to him as well. Thank you to everybody. Thank you to David Poile and Jeff Marek. For Carter Hutton, I'm Nick Alberga. We'll talk on Tuesday. Take care. Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long-form interviews. We got clips. We got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.